Hello, 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 and welcome to today's episode of Her Version. This podcast is dedicated to sharing stories of struggle to triumph, a platform that allows individuals to tell their truth in order to inspire and uplift others. For those of you that are new to this podcast and like content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button, follow, like, and share. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria. Let's jump right in. Hello, and thank you for joining us today for this episode of Her Version. Thank you for those of you that are already jumping on. We appreciate it, and we would love if you shared the video that you were watching so we can reach more of an audience. This is the Her Version podcast, and this podcast is built on storytelling and the understanding that many times our greatest learning experiences come from listening to other people's stories. Today, I'm speaking with an amazing woman named Lesley Nase. Lesley, creator and CEO of Intuitive Animal Healing, is a certified core communication coach for businesses. She is host of Books, Yarns, and Tales on Win-Win Women's TV, Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and Roku. Her podcast, The Client Whispers, is set to be released January 2023. Welcome, Lesley. How are you?
Thank you. I loved your upbeat intro, and I'm like, oh, that's what I need is some kind of music like that for intro.
Yeah.
Thank
Yes.
you.
It gets your client, your guest and your audience pumped. So thank you for saying that. I got it. Where did I get it at? Fiverr.
Oh,
Fiverr.com.
I'll remember that.
A little, there's a little, what would that be? A little, that's not like an advertisement. What is that when you do a little hit to somebody?
Plug, like a little plug.
Thank you. Lesley to the rescue. A plug. So how are you doing, Lesley? Tell us where you're from.
I am from Vermont here in the US, and I'm doing great. It snowed last night, so I love to see that white coverage outside. I just got to be aware when I'm out with the animals that I'm not slipping on something. But other than that, it's brisk, it's cold. It's, one of my favorite times of year.
I love it. Very, very cool. I forget that it's snowing because I live in Florida. So we're just like not even in tune with what's going on in the world at all. But that's awesome. And I love that you love that. That's cool. Not very many people that I meet that actually enjoy winter enough to like say it out loud. So that's cool.
Well, one of my favorite times, or the reason it's my favorite time, is because it's the darkest time. Most people think, oh, the dark, I don't like that. It doesn't make me feel good, or I feel like it's got to be much later than it is. But it's a wonderful time for going within and kind of planting and getting ready with those seeds that you're going to sprout once the winter solstice comes. The return of the light to me is such a great celebration. So I enjoy that.
Wow. Okay. I appreciate that very much. It is darker.
Yeah.
Like literally.
Yes, it is.
Well, I so appreciate you, Lesley, hanging out with us. I know our first interaction that we had was so awesome. You do so many cool things. So I'm so excited to kind of jump into what some of that is. But before we do that, I'd like to know just a little bit about you, your journey, your story, anything you want to share with us. So my first question that I would love to ask you on this amazing podcast is, if you could pick any story, what story would you pick that changed your entire life, kind of like the pivot? And what did you learn from that time in your life?
Wow. Any story. I think that our life is made up of different pivotal moments and different stories that happen. But I know that the one that happened before I moved to where I am now was a real huge pivotal part. I am a shamanic practitioner, and so I really believe in connecting with Mother Nature and kind of picking up the signs and what's happening in the world. Sometimes it can be such a reflection on what's going on with your world. So back in 2016, I was running my family campground, and I knew that I needed to break away from that and really do my own life and my own thing. But I wasn't sure how that was going to happen. So along came a tropical storm named Irene, and she hit Vermont and flooded a lot. It had been a record flood since 1929. But this campground that we owned at that time was bordered on two sides by two rivers. One was the Batkill River, which is a little bit bigger, and the other was a tributary that came down off the mountains. So we had gotten everybody out of it. It's in August. It's right before Labor Day weekend, a big time. And I could hear the storm and the rocks going down the river and making this rolling noise going over and over again. And it was the day after the heavy part of the rain. And I just went, I've got to go look. I know everybody's gone, but I have to go look. I drove my car down, and the campground really wasn't flooded too badly at that point. We'd had floods before. But as I drove back out of the wooded area, I stopped at the place where the road went three ways. And off to my left was an 8-foot berm. And I heard this noise as I stood there for a moment that smashed that 8-foot berm down as this wall of water came and just flooded 3/4 of the campground.
Wow.
And to me, that was a pivotal moment because I just went, wow, you just broke through all of my resistance, all of my barriers, and you just washed it all away. Did I have to rebuild? Absolutely. But was I determined that at the point where I rebuilt and got ready to sell the family campground was going to happen? Yes, I knew. I knew that it was time to move on and that everything was going to fall in place, and it did.
Wow. What year was this?
That wasn't 2016. That was 2011, because it took me 5 years in which to get it together to move. Yeah. So 2011.
Wow. Can you talk a little bit, one of the biggest issues that I think challenges that a lot of humans have is getting stuck in the darkness or getting stuck in the negative of a story. And like you said, you've had so many, right? There's been ups and downs and twists and turns all over the place within your journey that you've had, this being one of them. When you think back about that particular story or a combination of stories, I would like to know from your personal perspective of what you kind of do as a step-by-step to pull yourself from a dark place into a light place. Is there anything that you're seeing as far as a consistency that maybe you could shed some light for other individuals who are in a dark spot right now that are just like, I don't know how to get out of this. Like, I don't know how to see the light in this.
I can certainly understand that because it feels so overwhelming. It feels physically like you've got a weight on your shoulders, your head, your chest, and that you can't move out of that. And there were times, ups and downs after that. But the one thing that I know about in the work that I do is that everything's vibration, everything is frequency. And that if I want to move the energy within my body, that I need to breathe. And I do a couple of different types of breath. And the most simplest is just breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Because what this does, when you can do like 3 to 4 deep breaths in and release it out, your whole body goes from being uptight to relaxed.
Wow.
Not only that, but your heart then is saying, to the rest of your body, you're safe. And when you're feeling safe, and it may take some practice and time, and if you can't get it through the breast, then start moving the whole body. Walk, do something, some movement, something other than what you're doing to just be present and be fully within your body, because most of us don't feel safe within our body. And
Yeah.
so once you do, that's when you can hear the messages from your heart. And that's where you can bring those memories. Like I said, the flood that happened, we'd had little floods along the time. So I grew up with that. And the resilience of my parents of, this is Mother Nature, my dad would say. You can't live without her. Sometimes you don't feel like you can live with her, but you can work with her and work through it. And so you just do what's needed to do, because Mother Nature is going to bounce back. And that's really true of us as humans, that we can bounce back from anything, no matter what. It takes little steps and the determination just to move, and to think of that own divine inner wisdom within you and your own resilience to come up and move through you.
What a great example. Thank you for that. Yes, great visual for how we work. That's so true. So true. When did you come in contact with this personal development or personal growth? At what point in your life did you bump into it?
Oh, gosh. I would say that it's probably always been a part of me.
Wow.
Which is, for most people, you wouldn't necessarily think so. But I have a birthmark, and so it's very visual to everybody, visible. And, when I meet people, it would be there. My mother's favorite story talks about how when we walked down the street one time, hand in hand, I started stomping my feet and scuffling, and I had a scowl on my face. My mother stopped and looked at me and she said, "What's the matter?" And I looked up at her with big tears in my eyes and said, "I don't like people staring at me." And she said, "Did you forget to smile at them?" And that wisdom as a small child just brightened me up. And she said it turned everything around, because I started just going down the street and smiling at people and waving. And even to this day, that's it. To me, I don't necessarily see the birthmark, and most people don't see it after a while. But I was also born in a family of 5 children, and my youngest brother was born with spina bifida. And it wasn't, that my parents' steadfast beliefs on things, that my little brother didn't come right home. He had to go 3 hours away in those days to be able to have an operation on his spine. And my mother says, I never knew when he was going to be able to come. My dad would go visit him because he'd be up in that area of Vermont quite often. And he would see and find out what's going on. But she said, one day I got a call, come get your son. And she said, I didn't know what I was going to be doing. But all of us just seemed to, help, and you did whatever needed to be done in part of the family. So I think that part of that resilience and that inner guidance was always very helpful within that. And again, I'm certainly someone who's spent a lot of time outside and has a great connection with Mother Nature through the pets and animals that share my life to where I live now. I know it's just out there.
That's fantastic. Are there any limiting beliefs that you've had to shed in order to get to where you are now mentally and emotionally?
Absolutely. Who doesn't have limiting beliefs, right? And that's one thing that that come off of often. When I sold the family campground and decided to go on my own and go online with my business, that was a whole different ball game for me. I didn't know about going online. I had done workshops. I had a spiritual community, but now they were too far away to connect to them. So it was like being on your own, and you're going to go online and you have to figure this out. And it was not in my wheelhouse for a long time. And many of us search for coaches, and we think we found the right person until it's not the right person. And we realize what's happening. And when I realized what the first coach had started doing, I had then backed off and went, oh, no, we're done. But I had to, that self-taught for talk for myself was, one of my favorite mantras is always, I am enough, exactly as I am and exactly as I am not. That acceptance of who we are, no matter what you do, no matter what you have to learn, is to say, I am enough. And I think the second part of that is to find like-minded people, find your tribe again, whether it's on the internet or whether it's locally where you're living. If you've moved again, they're helpful, they support.
Yeah. We have quite a few people listening right now. Can you repeat that little mantra you just said for those that are like, oh, that was good? Like myself.
I am enough, exactly as I am and exactly as I am not.
Wow. So good. I've never heard that before. That's just so strong.
I can't remember now. I wish I could give a tribute to where I might have heard that. But like any of us, we hear something and we go, oh, that resonates with me. So you write it down and you repeat it to yourself as an affirmation. And it's, again, one of those things, like you said, when you go into the darkness and we don't always have this great day. So you got to make it a great day. It may start off good and then something happens. Well, how do you raise yourself up out of that? How do you raise your vibration? How do you move forward, get back into that joy and happiness?
Yeah. One of the questions that I love to ask my guests is, at what point are we good enough? And I think that statement very clearly states kind of your viewpoint on it. But I want to ask, in your opinion, where is the line between you're good enough and continue to push yourself to get better?
The acceptance that you're good enough no matter what is a good baseline in which to start. But it doesn't mean that you sit back and wait for something else to happen. If you're like me, I have tons of ideas and I'm always running ideas through my head. I could do this, I could do that. And I was like, whoa, what if, and sometimes you have to realize that great idea is just because you're manifesting more energy, more creativity, and let's write it down and see where it goes. Or I always like to write it down, because when I write something down, if it flows easily, then I know I've got something that I can move forward on. And I had this example just happen recently. One of my fellow win-win women was looking for somebody to read her course description. And I said, sure, I'll do that. And many others did as well. And I realized when I looked at it, I just contacted her and said, look, we're going to have brainstorm time because this needs a little bit of work. And she said, oh, I feel like I just kind of channeled it and put it all down, but I know it needs to be organized. And I said, yeah, I can see that. Highlight whatever is, what you think is the great part. And when you start to do that, you can focus then on what it is that you really want to say. And this is part of the core communication. When you know yourself, when you're able to figure out what is my communication style, how do I talk to others about this? What is it that I want to put out there? Then you start to see those patterns. And that's where that pushing yourself goes even farther. And when I was done with her, she said, how much do I owe you? And I went, we didn't do this for that. And she said, but I want to recommend you to other people. This has been so helpful. And I realized that something I'd been working on earlier in the week just manifested in front of me. If you got a muddled mind, then let's figure it out.
Yes.
So, yeah.
I know we're going to dive into your business and what you do, later on in the podcast, but what does CORE stand for? I'm assuming it's an acronym, maybe.
It is. It is. It stands for C is for catalyst, O is for optimizer, R is for relator, and E is for expert. All of us like to put things in a box where we can go, we're programmed to see patterns in our lives. So if you're a catalyst, then you're somebody who's like, I've got this idea, I just got to move forward. I don't want to wait. I'm going to be at the head of the pack. I'm going. If you're an optimizer, then you're more of a person who's like, okay, I got to make sure all these numbers add up and this is viable. Do I have all my steps in order before I make that move forward? If you're a relator, you're someone who opens their heart, and you have a lot of heart and soul for anyone who's in front of you. And if it's a worthy cause, you're going to go for it. If you're an expert, then you're going from your brain. Your brain is one that just wants to soak up more knowledge, more information. You love facts and figures. You want to know what's going on. And so it's a little bit of a test that somebody can take in the free assessment that I give. And you can figure out where you score the highest. It doesn't mean that that's the only part you are. It means that it's a baseline in which you can start and develop yourself and learn how to talk in those terms to anybody that you meet. It's good for business, relationships, and even your dog.
Love it. Okay. We'll dive into that again coming up here. If you could wish for anything, what would you wish for?
One of the things that I always put out there is that to touch 1 billion hearts or more, just to be able to get out in front of people and be able to talk to them and say, look, you've got it inside of you. To help give tools and abilities, especially at this time, to touch 1 billion hearts and go back. They take that back and they go, oh, maybe I can do that. Maybe I can, whatever your talent, your ability is, can make a difference in this world. So I'd wish for the opportunity, more opportunities to be able to do that.
Fantastic. What sort of advice would you give to females who are struggling with their confidence?
What advice would I give to females who are struggling with confidence? I think that a lot of us struggle with confidence, depending, and it doesn't matter. Again, we look at ourselves, we're either we're children, we're daughters, we're mothers, we're business people, and we have these kind of expectations within those roles and within our family that we think we need to then again fit some kind of mold. And one of the best things again is kind of physical, because if you're not feeling confident and good about yourself, then you often are closed in. And the more that you can open yourself to it and just square your shoulders and look forward and put a smile on your face, that's helpful. Sometimes it's helpful to, I had a client who had to face her ex-husband in court. They weren't ex at that time. And she was a police officer. And every time she came up against him, she felt small and little because of the way she was abused at home. So I said, well, you got to put on your superwoman suit, you know? What do you have? If you've got something that's red, then wear something that's red. You want something that's going to make you feel powerful. You want to walk in there like you're walking down your beat. And you want to swing your hips just the way that you would if you're coming up to anything in the job. And so she practiced in front of the mirror doing that and seeing herself as this real confident person. And so when she was ready to walk in to deliberate between the two of them, she got what she wanted, you know, because she was very confident about, no, this is it. And so it's again, sometimes we have to, I don't say we fake it till we make it, but you know what? Mirror exercises are some of the best, right?
Yeah.
We look at ourselves in the mirror and we first will see, oh, you know, that, oh gosh, you know, hair doesn't look right, or my skin, it doesn't look, something isn't right. And we're so critical of ourselves. But in the shamanic tradition, sometimes, I wish I had something, which I don't necessarily, we might go up and see only this part. And if you're only looking at a part of yourself, you might be going, wow, I love my eyes. My eyes are so expressive. And then you think, what is the best part of my body? Is it my feet, my ankle, or do I have the most shapeliest legs you ever saw? Find something within you that makes you feel good about who you are. And that's what helps build that confidence as well.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's one of the things that I actually tell my son and my fiance's children is that everybody was given something.
Mm-hmm.
There's no one on earth that's been given everything.
No.
Yeah. So it's just focusing on that, you know, focusing on what you were given, and not worrying about the areas of which you perceive as not being as good as, because a lot of times just our perception, and people don't even give a crap.
Well, that's true. That's true. And maybe, you know, you needed to focus on that so you could just let it go and not
Yeah.
give a crap yourself. You know, if that's the only one you're ever going to change in your life is you, then you start with you.
Yes. Oh, that's good. Yes. Take your own advice if you're the only one. Yeah. So good. 100%. So I want to take a few moments to acknowledge those watching live. Thank you so much for being here, for hanging out with Lesley and I. If you are watching on the replay, make sure that you hashtag replay so that we know where you are watching us at and we can send you some love. But I want to ask Lesley about your business, how you help all the humans. Tell us about it all.
How I help the humans?
Well, I know
All
that
right.
it's animals, but you're still
Well,
together, right?
it is. You know,
Yeah.
I have to say that when I did the healing work and the shamanic work, it was like coming home for me in the shamanic practitioner and such. But over the years, one of the things that I realized when I was doing healing work, whether it was with people or with their animals, is that a lot of people's perception of what was going on with the healing was, fix me. I just want you to fix me, make me feel better. And it's not about me making anyone feel better or any other, you know, the animal in your life either. It has always been about you and how you perceive yourself. So during that time, more and more people didn't understand, especially when it came to the animal communication, that what was happening in their household, that they were part of that problem or they were part of that scenario. And quantum physics is something that I love, the language of quantum physics, because it's taught us about entanglement, which means that whoever you live with in your environment, whether it is, you know, your fiance, his children, your children, my dogs, my husband, whoever is in that environment, you are entangled. You just kind of mend, and there are things that going on. So if you come home from the office and you're not feeling good, you had a lousy day with your boss, and nobody appreciated what you had to do, or you just wasn't, as women, sometimes because hormonally we just feel down. Okay, we've got this day that energy is low. It wasn't our best day, but you walk in and you continue to feel that low down. Again, it's vibration, energy within you that affects everybody in your household. There are some, and my husband gets upset with something, he's going to let off with a profanity. I'll tell you, I got 3 little dogs who are running over going, is he okay? You react, and children can react the same way. They might be like, well, okay, maybe I don't want to talk to mom right now. And it is all about, again, your attitude, your perception, how you perceive yourself. And there's sometimes you just have to say, look, I'm just not having a great day. Tomorrow's going to be better. But right now, I just need to keep my space right here and right there within it. And a lot of the work that I do happens to be with how you perceive yourself. When I talked about core communication, the first thing that we teach is to know yourself. If you can understand yourself and what kind of communicator you are, then you're going to develop better relationships. You're going to make new connections. And through those connections, you're also going to be able to resolve conflicts, because a lot of them, us, want to, we want to avoid any kind of conflict. So the second part is I help you break down those barriers by knowing them. Once you break down the barriers, then you can communicate to somebody on their level, whether they're that catalyst, optimizer, relator, or expert. You'll have a greater understanding where they're coming from, and you can speak the language of your listener. And that's what leads to that more collaborations, more connections, more relationships that have deeper meaning to it, because it's not about surface anymore. It is about deeper relations, and is really knowing that, okay, this is going to make a difference. And if you're in business and you're a professional, then you want to know, how can I make that sale? How can I quickly turn whatever I'm saying into that cash? How does that make a difference in my world?
Yeah. Who should be contacting you?
I work with entrepreneurs and professionals, small businesses. I love working with women, but I don't work just with women itself. In many small businesses, I might get, can you just teach, a workshop for, my group, so that they can get the essence of that. Other times I work in a group setting. So I have individuals who come and they want to know more and go deeper with it, and really have the masterminds and the one-on-one coaching and the rest of it. So yeah, that's
awesome. Where can people find you?
The easiest sometimes is through the intuitive animal healing. But if you want, just Lesley at leslieNase.com. That's an easy way to get a hold of me as well.
That's your email, Lesley at Lesley.
Yes, I have 2 different emails. So that one, just Lesley at leslieNase.com, is one of the easiest ones to get a hold of me.
Beautiful. What are your big dreams for your business?
What are my big dreams? Wow, I think my biggest dream would be to really get out to people in person again, as well as continue online. I miss that one-to-one aspect when you actually see people, although StreamYard and Zoom and others have given us more of that FaceTime with people. but there's a different kind of energy and connection when you can see people one-on-one and help them that way. But I'm always looking for more clients and more reach. I had to touch those billion hearts. So yeah.
Yes, 100. Why do you do what you do?
Why do I do what I do? Because I really am passionate about helping you find your own divine inner wisdom and guidance. I'm to help you know that you have more power within you than you realize. And you have strengths and talents and abilities that need to be out there in the world because this world needs you. Whether you want to play a little part or whether you want to play a huge part, it doesn't matter. And everything in between goes.
Yeah. Thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Yeah.
Thank
My
you
pleasure.
so much for sharing some of your story. Any closing thoughts before we wrap up?
I'm watching as the darkness comes around right now. And there are little lights that I turned on knowing that it was going to be dark when I'm done. I think the closing thought is to know that you can always ask for help. You don't have to do it alone. You can always ask for the light to be turned on, whether you're asking for a physical light to be turned on or the inner guiding light to be turned on. You can always ask for help.
Absolutely. Definitely. Well, I thank you so much, Lesley, for being here, hanging out with us, sharing some of your story with us. It's women like you who understand the importance of sharing our story and giving value that makes this podcast so plush with goodness. So thank you for that. And for those of you watching live, thank you so much for being here, hanging out with us. Again, those of you watching on replay, make sure you hashtag replay so that we know where you are watching us at. And I think that is about it. So if you resonated with Lesley and all the goodness that she shared today, make sure that you connect with her on her website, intuitiveanimalhealing.net. Do you hang out on Facebook, LinkedIn? Where do you hang out the most at?
Yes, I'm on both. I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn. So the most I think is probably LinkedIn more than anything else, as most professionals. But I do check in at Facebook as well.
Awesome. So find her on LinkedIn or Facebook. We love to connect people here on this platform in order to make sure that we all continue to rise. Thank you for being here, for joining us on Her Version. This community is expanding every single day and is filled with females who are striving to do better than they did yesterday. For those of you that are new to this podcast and like content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button, follow, like, and share. And if you have an amazing story to share of struggle to triumph, be sure to reach out to me at hernation.life. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria, and I'm so grateful to be here sharing a platform that allows people to share their truth and inspire others. As always, do something